One recruiter just made $175,000 in placements in 3 months of working together. Another recruiter went from $150,000 in 2023 to $108,000 in January 2025 alone, all by following the system. If you don't have a system, you're making this harder, much harder than it needs to be. The Digital Recruiter Bootcamp is for recruiters like you that want a proven system that works on LinkedIn to open up the top of funnel and generate more opportunities with quality clients and candidates, people that you want more of, right? No more chasing the emails, the call, getting in front of your market, standing out, looking like the expert that you are. You have the knowledge, right? There's competition domestically, there's competition internationally. You have to be able to stand out in 2025. So you have more opportunities for closer the money activities and meetings and more time closing deals. Digital Recruiter program makes that happen. You're not going to be relying on tech or Zoom Info or Clay. You're going to be relying on you and you getting better, because that is the key. And all the noise in the world is managers want to work with you. We got the Digital Recruiter Bootcamp. It's a year of support. It's 1 week of live coaching with yours truly, plus monthly Q&As. The next class is on March 24th. So make sure to sign up. There are limited spots available. Digital Recruiter Bootcamp membership. It is the best value in recruitment going right now. You get access to our whole system that's helped generate millions of revenue placements for recruiters, agencies, recruiters this decade. So again, hop in there, get the system, learn how to do automation and content in your profile, how to have the right conversations, the right messaging with your prospect. No more messing around. Check out the link, sign up digitalrecruiter.io/bootcamp. Make sure to get your spot today, and I'll see you in there. All right, welcome back. Another episode, Digital Recruiter Podcast. Awesome guest today. And we're just talking offline about just how much overlap there is between how he helps recruiters, how I help recruiters, but he attacks it from the website stuff. So we got the Director of Sales Operations of Recruiters Websites, Steve Gipson. How you doing, man?
Good, Clark, man. How are you?
Dude, good. Feels like a long time coming. I think you and I met when I was first starting out, and I was an absolute nobody. And we kind of laid the groundwork. So I was like, all right, this guy's cool. I think I just got to like build this business, and maybe I can have him on my podcast one day. No, I didn't even know I was going to have one then. But it's been cool to kind of just like see the journey and kind of follow your stuff and the March Madness bracket we'll get into and everything else. And I'm excited because we were talking about you kind of got to pick something, right? You got to fix your LinkedIn and fix your website. That's all got to be done as a recruiter, right? How
Sure.
you do it, order of operations can be up for debate, but I think it's non-negotiable now that marketing and standing out as an agency is so critical. So that's why I'm like super pumped to like have this conversation, because it's not just me saying it for once. It's you're going to be saying it here with me. And I think it's really important.
Yeah, people are probably tired of me hearing me say it, but it's on a different platform, so it's great.
Exactly.
Right? So
have at it, right? If people that don't know you go for it. It's new to them, which is going to be cool.
I'm just so thrilled someone wants to listen.
Yeah, that's what I say too. But yeah, let's start with like the background, right? How you got into recruiting, how you got into building websites for recruiters. Let's give us kind of like the lay of the land there and the journey.
Yeah, so recruiters' websites. So we're pretty literal with our name, right?
I love
it. we help recruiting firms and staffing with their websites, and the way we got into this. So I am a recruiting brat, so I grew up around it. So my dad's a recruiter, my brother's a recruiter, my sister's a recruiter, I was a recruiter. And so we just have been immersed in this. Dad was part of a small to mid-sized staffing company out of St. Louis, worked there for about 10 years, helped grow and develop that business throughout the 90s. And then branched off, started his own firm, combined some of his backgrounds in insurance and staffing, and created a firm that specialized within the property and casualty insurance industry. And so when we graduated college school, he brought myself, my brother, and my sister on board and taught us the business of recruiting. And so it's just something that we've kind of always been around and always knew. And really, I didn't think I would be doing anything different other than recruiting. That was kind of the game plan.
Yeah.
I watched Dad He worked from the home office most of the time, and so I watched what he did. I shadowed. I went to when I was like 8 years old. I went to Bring Your Kid to Work Day with Dad, and so I've always been around it, and always watched it, admired it. I watched him go through all the ups and downs that a recruiter goes through. We were sitting there eating dinner, and he's just distraught because some deal just fell apart, or he's elated because some deals just came together, and so you're watching all the ups and downs.
We're having ramen for the next month, versus steak.
Right.
You know how kind of quarter it was. Yeah.
Are you accidentally cut your meat the wrong way and it makes a bad noise and he goes off of off the handles because he's so stressed out. So we were just always around that, and I'll digress and tell a funny story real quick. At least I think it's funny. So Dad, growing up. So we'd watch him work in his office, and all the time he'd be on with his headset on, talking to somebody on the other side of the phone. And man, he would be cracking up. And I'm walking into the room, and I'm just looking at Dad, and he is just dying laughing. And so I'm like, man, that guy on the other side is probably laughing too. And Dad's telling these jokes, and he's killing it. It's just so much fun. Dad is just killing it. And then when he brought us on board, one of the things that he would do when we were training is he'd have us shadow one of his calls. And so Dad's there on the other line. He's talking to one of his prospects. I think it was a client at the time. I'm listening in on the other side, and it's coming up. Dad's ready for one. I can tell him queuing up for one of those one-liners, one of the zingers, that would get this guy laughing on the other side. And he does it. He delivers it. Dad's cracking up, but the guy's not at all. And so the realization came to me during the training is, oh no, Dad's not as funny as I thought he was. And so there's this like internal like child that had this picture of this hilarious dad that then kind of dwindled. Great recruiter, maybe not as funny as he thought he was at the moment. And so we went through those experiences, we went through those things that we did, and he went through all the ins and outs and trained us very classically. Steve Finkel was our guy, and so we watched all the Finkel VHS tapes. We read all the Finkel books. Pete Lefkowitz, we went through all of his trainings. Just anything that was kind of that classic kind of recruitment training we had been kind of just immersed in. And so that was our life. And then my brother, Jeff Gipson, he's actually our founder and CEO of Recruiters Websites. And he was a great recruiter, but he was also one of the recruiters that would find anything to do but recruit. And so he would find himself doing other things like putting together different types of like Boolean searches, marketing emails. And then he had a hobby and a background as a developer. And so he built our firm's website. And as he did that, we were part of several different associations and memberships of recruiters. And those individuals started reaching out to us and asking us, hey, who did this? And so we just sent them to Jeff. He started moonlighting, doing those things on his own time. And it got to the point where more and more people started coming to him. He started turning away business. He had a small family, trying to recruit during the day. And he's like, you know what? There's a need here. I'm going to do this full time. And so he branched off, started Recruiters Websites in 2012, recruited me out of the recruiting side of the business shortly thereafter. And since then, we've just kind of organically grown through the years. We've partnered with roughly a little over 1,000 firms at this point, of all different shapes, sizes, industry expertises, makeups, whether it's staffing, direct hire. We're not a huge team. We've grown into a team of 12 now, with everything that we do is done in-house. So from our content writers, designers, developers, API programmers, we're connecting different softwares, SEO services and our SEO team. We have a whole variety of solutions that we provide now that have blossomed beyond just the website into what it is our clients may need within their world of digital marketing as a firm.
Love it. I love the breakdown, love the growth, and keeping it in the family. Everything but recruiting is hilarious to me. I mean, that's perfect. The dad jokes is all the time, and you kind of do realize it's funny on the other side. I had it in person, so I saw my dad. He on the phones. He had radio stations, and I saw him in person. I'm like, Dad, like it's so embarrassing, like all that stuff. So it's interesting to hear you didn't have the other side perspective until later on. I'm like, oh, that Band-Aid was ripped from me when I was like 7. So I think most people, but most people don't have recruiters as dads growing. At least not when we grew up. So, right. I'm curious, like. What are his thoughts on the evolution of the recruiting industry from when he started to now?
Yeah, so it's interesting. So he definitely recognizes the need for kind of that digital evolution. So he didn't though. So this is pretty funny. So this is where it kind of goes back to our inception. So mom and dad were celebrating their 25th anniversary. And this was when I was still in college. So I was interning at the time, but my brother and sister were working there. And dad was adamantly against sending emails. This is like 2005. Adamantly against even sending emails to be able to source and find candidates. And so it was always old school. Pick up the phone, you cold call, you introduce yourself. You got to make 50, 60 cold calls a day. This is what you do as a recruiter. And so he would not allow any kind of emails to be sent out in kind of a mass or bulk. And so he had a website, a really, primitive website and things that you need there, of course. But, and so when he left to go to his 2-week 25th anniversary vacation to Hawaii, they got a big job order for, 15 or something sales reps with a mid-sized carrier out of Nebraska. And there was no way that they were going to be able to make enough calls to fill all the positions. And so my brother, as he was dabbling in a lot of these other things and just picking up the phone, he said, you know what? Screw what dad says. I'm doing this.
Yeah.
And so he put together an email system. He actually put it all in place. He started blasting out those emails. He went and scraped and got email addresses. Probably not the most spam kosher thing to do. But it was 2005. We could do that then. And so he went out, sent all those emails, and they filled, I think, like 75% of those roles before dad got back. They just killed it. And he's like, what did you do? Yeah. And he's like, this is what I did. And so that kind of set off a light bulb for dad. And it's like, okay, maybe there are other ways to do some of the things that we're doing. And so little milestones like that kind of helped him evolve into the need for not only those recruiting fundamentals, because ultimately you do need to know how to recruit, right? You know how to build relationships, find the right kind of candidates, but how do you take those things and then make sure you complement that with the right kind of technology, right kind of reach that then allows you to be very, very successful. So he's come along a really, really long way and has really embraced that. And him and my sister now, it's just them two since we branched off, and they do great. They produce what they want to produce. And like last year on their website, they had I was looking at this the other day, 423 inbound leads from employers, specifically employers, come into their website through their contact forms because of their SEO so good and how much he's taken and invested in that aspect of his business. So he's embraced it.
That's incredible. And it's, I love to see when people make that pivot. I know people had to do it with just using the internet, I'm sure, right? And different, and then email, and then you have LinkedIn, and then you have automation, and then you have content marketing, but it's always the same thing. Oh, that doesn't work. Or why would I use email when I can use the phone, right? Sounds a lot like, why would I post content when I could just make calls or send emails? It's like, sure, you can do all the things as you were, right? But the market's going to evolve with or without you. So you have to weigh the pros and cons of, like, the biggest advantage those veterans have is that you've already done the work. Right. But what changes is the medium for how people get to know who you are, get to learn about you. But it's also an opportunity to leverage the work that you've done. Right. And I think that's the messaging opportunity that firm like that. That's why the people that evolve, it's like they keep going. The ones that don't, it's like, man, you're kicking away an opportunity, maybe because of ego or fear or whatever it is. I don't know if you kind of identified it, but that's typically kind of what I see as well.
Yeah, I don't know if it's ego. Because we all go through this, right? As we get older, and as you progress and things change, we'll look at things that people are doing, like for example, like the whole TikTok movement and the Gen Zers and those things. For me to get on board with that would be a big ask, right? To be that intimately involved as making video content. I get the need for it and I understand it. But for me to actually do that kind of full out, always recording myself, always being trying to be, in the public eye, I wouldn't make that transition real well if that was absolutely required. I think it's wonderful that they're doing it, and that some of them are making tons of money, and it's great. But it would be a big ask for me as a very very hard-nosed millennial in these ways that I am, right? So I think it's a little bit of just not being able to transition in some ways, and then maybe not seeing the benefit. Someone's got to show you the light. Yeah. If someone can flip on the light switch for you and show you what it is, how much you're costing yourself by not evolving and not doing something, and show, if you take this on top of what you already know, off the expertise you already have, the referrals you get, the industry knowledge, the players that you're connected with, and you put an engine behind it to be able to magnify that, this is what you can get.
Yeah.
And for them to be able to believe in that and trust the process and be consistent in that, it takes a lot for someone to want to be able to kind of move in that direction, not only with their time, with their resources. And so I think it's just finding a way to help turn on the light switch for them is probably something that we probably need to do a better job of. Maybe you've done a great job of it. I think I've done an okay job of it, but it does seem like there still is that holdover of people that have been doing this 25, 30 years that don't want to make that transition.
Yeah, it's and some maybe don't have to. And so they're good.
Yeah.
And I tell people, like, I can present the information, right? You can do your research, and it might be you don't use it until you have to, until it's too late. Now, if you can adopt it while you're on top or while you have runway, and you're then even better. But some people will be good forever. People are like, well, I don't need to do that. I'm like, good for you. That's not most people, though. Yeah.
Right. Well, and right now, so the world we're in right now is a good example of kind of what you're talking about, right? So there's been firms that have, and I believe them on this in a lot of ways. Steve, they'll say this: I've never had to make a marketing call my whole life as a recruiter. That's wonderful. That's great. What good for you, right? I mean, I wish I could have said the same thing about my business. It just wasn't the reality for me. I had to make calls. I had to make people know who I was. We had to put out content. But I've always had enough business, they say. I never had to make any marketing calls. It's always been the way it is. And I've had several people through my career, and I've been doing this since 2015 from this side of the desk. And it's fine. It's just like you said, you don't argue with that. It's great, whatever. Some of those same people, though, after in this last couple of years, even with COVID and the way that transitioned things for a little bit as well there too, all of a sudden they found themselves having to pick up the phone. They found out their leads, the people they knew. Guess what? They retired. They moved on. People aren't as, and I don't want to use the word as loyal because I don't think that's a great way to say it, but people aren't as entrenched in organizations as they used to be 2-3 years. So you have all these people moving different places, and all the contacts and all that work, all that goodwill you've built up through the years, all of that means nothing because there's a whole new type of audience you have to market to. And if you're not, and so all of a sudden that changed for them. And now they're in a situation where they haven't built any of that up. And even though you're a great recruiter, now you have to start from ground zero to be able to start building those things up, to be able to regain that traction in the audience that you maybe had before. And so, being able to do it when you're at the top, you don't plant a garden when you're hungry, right? That whole cliche kind of statement, right? You don't do it. You plant it when everything is going great. So that way, when things aren't as great, you can harvest that garden and to be able to be sustained and not go hungry. And so the same thing when we're talking about our digital marketing efforts, whether it's on LinkedIn and building out a channel and lead generation system through that platform, whether it's your website and how that correlates to all of that. If you're not investing in those things when you actually need it, it won't be there for you to be able to reap from.
Correct. And I seen the exact same thing on my end. And the first couple of years, there were so many new recruiters. I started 2021 officially. 2022 is when I went full time with digital recruiters. So coming up on 3 years on doing this full time. And it's just been over and over. I see the opportunity with firms that are established. And sometimes that could be a year or two in, and you establish yourself quickly, right? Depending where you come from. Had some great clients there. Had some great clients that have been 15, 20, 25 years into the industry. It's all the stories. It's like, that's all it is. If you can just share your stories, because you got to think, right? Your best clients in agency world typically have already worked with recruiters. So why are they going to go to a different recruiter? It could be turnover. It could be they like their firm, but they're not getting the results, or they don't like their firm and they're still not getting results, right? So how can you show them that you're likable and that you can demonstrate that you've won, right? You've helped people like them before. Website, LinkedIn feed.
Right.
Those are
Oh
the
yeah.
two simplest ways. Now you have a lot more ownership over a website, right? If you can control that, like, that's a lot better because LinkedIn, right? You could be platform dependent. I would say a lot of people are already on LinkedIn, right? So it's a lot of the fish. I think getting your fish to the website is a whole other challenge. That's what I wanted to ask you about because I'm curious about
Sure.
SEO. I'm curious about getting people to your website, right? Because I got to imagine it's like probably less impressions than LinkedIn. But when you do get a website impression for you, your number is going to be like, that's gold, right? Like that is like
Yeah.
the gold of gold. So like, I don't know, can you break down a bit how that process works and kind of like what you're looking at from the website
Yeah.
perspective? Yeah.
Yeah. So, and again, I'm always in the camp of when we talk about all the different mediums that are available to us
Yeah.
as a business, as a small business. Take advantage of everything that's there, right? Try to squeeze it for as much as you possibly can
Yep.
because it's there, it's a resource and it's valuable. So whether it's LinkedIn, whether it's a website, if depending on what industry you're in, sometimes going to TikTok, sometimes going to Instagram, even things like healthcare, Facebook's still very viable. There are different industries that dictate different types of platforms and mediums. For most of our clients, it's going to be LinkedIn and then also going to be their website. And so when we look at a website and we talk about how do we drive people there, so they're not necessarily field of dreams. If you build it, they will come, right? It needs to be something that you're actively using in everything you're doing. So whether you're sending emails, whether you're engaging people through LinkedIn, whether you're creating content through other platforms and other type of social networks, what are you doing to drive people to that website? So there's that kind of just that natural kind of for your efforts that you're doing to make people come there, not the organic search, but how are we using that within our marketing efforts? A lot of it is enabling your recruiting team. So if you have a small team, even if it's just yourself, we see a lot of clients doing this right now is where they build out these really in-depth recruiter profile pages where it's more than just a bio. They're highlighting the jobs they're working on that page. They're highlighting their industry expertise. They're giving people a reason to be able to want to come and giving people a reason for wanting their recruiters to send people to that website to engage in their brand. And so what are some ways you can do that? Featured talent, hot candidates, people that you're MPCing. We have some clients that where we take and we build custom integrations with their pipeline within their ATS, and they have that display on their website confidentially, of course. But now a client can come there and they can send clients to this pipeline of everybody they're talking to. And so it's taking that MPC approach a little bit further, but it's giving them a reason to come to the website. And so they use that then in their efforts. And the cool thing about it is once you get somebody off of a different medium or a different platform and you bring them to your website, they're no longer just immersed in LinkedIn, or you're just not another LinkedIn recruiting profile that's there.
Yeah.
They're immersed in your brand and who you are and what you offer. You become now the only thing that they're paying attention to from a branding perspective of a company that they're engaging with. That's important to eliminate all that noise. And so you have those elements of what you do every single day as a firm of driving people there, your efforts, the things that you're executing in those conversations and giving people a purpose to come there. From an organic SEO perspective, I heard someone say recently, and I've heard this the last 4 or 5 years, SEO is dead. And that's the furthest thing from the truth because we are still searching so much for companies. What's the first thing you do when you go online to search for any type of service? You either, from an HR perspective, they're either going to go to LinkedIn, they're going to look around, or they're going to go to the web, Google, and they're going to just type in and look for a firm to be able to help them with.
Or AI now, and it's going to do resources from Google, Wikipedia, right, and stuff like that. Yeah.
100%. And even the AI snippet on there on Google and the way that comes up is pulling resources and SERP listings into that. Yep. Actually, I was looking at that today with a client and they're in those SERP listings, which is huge, right? Now they're right there in front of even the sponsored posts that are there, which is really, really cool. And so when you look at that opportunity that exists there, what firms try to think about, they miss the chance to be able to optimize their website for their specific niche, their specific vertical and what they do. They'll say, okay, I'm a recruiter. And so they'll put recruiter into their metadata and their meta title and their SEO optimization of that website. And they'll go through staffing firm, recruiting firm. They'll put in more generic terms like that. You're never going to win that. That is, it's just not going to happen. You're not going to beat all the legacy firms that have invested heavily in that are spending a ton of money in building out the content that relates to that and just what they've built up from domain authority around those keywords and key phrases. But if we can take your specific niche and your specific vertical and optimize the content on your website for those long-tailed keywords and key phrases that someone is typing in to find, let's just use insurance, what Dad does, right? insurance recruiters as a long tail keyword, claims adjuster recruiting firms, insurance recruiters in Florida, different geographical focuses, different underwriting recruiters, P&C insurance recruiters, property casualty recruiting firm, those types of keywords and key phrases. And you use those more long tailed specific keywords where maybe they have less volume, but the volume that's looking for you is the right kind of people that you want to find you. And so maybe when your search volume is not thousands and thousands a month, maybe it's a hundred a month, a couple hundred a month. You're now letting those couple hundred be able to have a chance to find you. You're cutting through that noise. And now you're effectively being able to have those users come from that platform of Google to your website to engage in your brand and see what it is that you have to offer. And they typically are warmer because they have a need. That's why they're searching you out. So the biggest emphasis is SEO is not you optimizing your website for your name. It's not being found for Steve Gipson's recruiting firm. It's for what is it that Steve Gipson recruiting firm specializes in that someone then needs to type in to find a firm that specializes in their specific dig or vertical that they're looking to be able to hire somebody in. Does that make sense?
Heck yeah. It's a incredible breakdown. You got my brain spinning and that's why I keep just the balance of what we're doing proactively with automation and content, right? There's a lot of focus on LinkedIn. It's the same thing. What's your foundation? What's your strategic advantage? Is that industry? Is it by department? Right. Is it by seniority level, right? Double down on that. Put that in your about section, on your headline, your sales navigator list. Target those types of those managers and all that. Have conversational messaging. Have your content relevant to them as you're doing that. And then basically what I'm hearing here is those same managers, they might be looking on LinkedIn, but they also might be typing on Google. So you hit them, you proactively reach out on LinkedIn, you take care of your website and have your keywords on SEO. So again, you're covering all angles to your point, right? And you just cover all your angles over time. And you could knock all that out in a year, LinkedIn and your website, right? And I think
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so this is where people, it's the whole, well, they just got lucky kind of thing, or that person found you were lucky. Well, no, again, let's be cliche with it. Again, luck is what opportunity and preparation meet.
Yeah.
Right. And so being prepared to be in the right place at the right time, those clients that we had worked with that had invested in SEO pre-COVID, when that need of I need an employee today, I need to hire now, and they were looking for recruiters in droves, they were there to be able to have people find them through their website when they were looking for that need. And so those clients that I can think of that were optimized and set up for that made a ton of hay in that time period because of what was available to them and being prepared and already in the right place at the right time.
I love it. I mean, you got me thinking about my own website and everything else. This is great. I knew you would do that, which is awesome. And I'm sure everyone listening to this got them, excited about it again, because it's the same, we've talked about it. You got to figure out your value proposition, right? Your ICP, all that. You have to have that, right?
Sure.
For a good website. I mean, I guess what goes in, what I get asked a lot about is website copy. Right? And I do a lot of LinkedIn copy, LinkedIn content, and there's some differences. What people are looking at website copy, what should they be looking at? What should they avoid? What should they focus on?
Despite my long-winded answers, brevity is great. So you want to be brief, demonstrate expertise, demonstrate value. Do that by building credibility through things like statistics and what you've accomplished. Client logos, testimonials, bold statements, things that are going to catch their attention and be able to drive them to a place of action. Because ultimately, no matter how much you invest in a website, so say you give me $2 million, and please reach out, give me $2 million.
Yes.
But say you did, and we took that money, we put it all into a website, and you have the most beautiful website in the entire world. It's perfect in every single way. It's beautiful. It says just the right thing. It's optimized. It's wonderful. Ultimately, they're not going to come there, and they're not going to sign a fee agreement on that site. They're still going to want to pick up the phone. They're going to reach out, and they're going to have a conversation with you. Yeah. And they're going to want to know what it is that Clark can do for them and how he's going to be able to help satisfy their need and find the solution to be able to find the right type of candidate for them. And so ultimately, we want to get them to a place of that conversation, because you're going to do a far better job of talking about those intangibles. They're going to feel your passion. They're going to understand your expertise. They're going to feel what it is that you bring to the table much differently than any perfectly written website will be able to do. And so our goal with any website we design and develop is to get them to a place of action by articulating those things I mentioned earlier, and then getting them to a place when they're on the phone with that recruiter or that owner of that firm.
Yeah.
And when I speak about websites from engagement perspective, I always focus more on the client side of things versus the job seeker side of things. Obviously, candidates are important, but candidates are primarily going to do what candidates do on a website. They're going to go apply. They're going to look for opportunities. They're going to go apply.
Yeah.
Whereas when you're talking to clients, they need to be stroked a little bit differently. They need to know how you can solve their problem. They need to know that you can solve their problem. And that information, that same information that resonates with clients about those things, when a candidate reads that, it also resonates with them. And so being able to create that content that's more focused from an employer perspective, again, this would probably be more specific to like a direct hire firm. Staffing may have different needs within this, relates to those job seekers and allows you to be able to kind of speak to both audiences through a single messaging that then allows you to be very effective in how you articulate that.
Yeah. God, there's so many parallels. It's crazy. It really is interesting. Like, just the process is so similar. I mean, to the brevity, to the being honed in, being narrow,
Right.
On the focus, and having some of the patience too, right? You can get some of those short-term wins, but patience and being in for the long game, I'm sure you see that too, right? I'm sure you see people right away based on kind of how honed in they are, that like it's just the right time. Like, I'm sure they get wins within a day or within a week, right? And it's got to kind of be, but it's like the majority, just give it time.
Yeah. So I would say this is probably where, like what it is that you guys do, right? And what your organization does, you probably get quicker wins in some ways, right?
Sometimes.
You get more of those. So for me, like a website it's definitely not overnight. Even if we're optimizing it right off the bat, it's still going to take time for that to index. Still going to take time for that to build the credibility in the eyes of the search engine. So it is a long-term kind of commitment to what it is a website is able to do for your firm. And so I do think that's important to note. But what's interesting about this is in today's world, we've talked about this internally, and we don't necessarily love this word because it has a negative connotation to it. But in a way, it relates. Is that marketing, whether it's from a website, whether it's being active on LinkedIn, whether it's creating content, and how you're using outreach campaigns and driving people to you, it's no longer something that you can really live without. It's almost a utility at this point. I need the lights on in my house. I need the internet. I need the water flowing. I need to be able to make sure I have heat and air conditioning for my kids and all the things that I'm doing. Marketing is those things to a household is the same thing to a business. And so if I have those things flowing, if I have those different channels of reaching people, if I have a website, if I have a LinkedIn campaign running, if I am actively creating that kind of thought leadership content, if I'm creating blogs, I'm running email marketing campaigns, all those now are utilities that are bringing about opportunities for me to grow my business. And without those, in today's market and climate where things are so noisy and people can set these things up overnight, you can have a guy that says, I got 10 grand. I'm going to start a recruiting firm tomorrow. And he can put that money in place and look more professional than you, who's been doing this 40 years. And he may not have a clue how to do any of it, but because he looks like he does, and he has the right messaging, and he's in the right place at the right time, he may get an opportunity to have and work with a client that you should get to work with, that you probably can find a better candidate for. But because he invested in the right things in the right way, he's able to then to generate that business. And so it's just, we can't afford really as recruiting firms to be without these elements in varying degrees, of course, and balancing out something that's palatable. But those things need to be there within every recruiting and staffing firm today. And if it's not, you are falling very, 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 very far behind.
Yeah, it's like not using analytics if you're in baseball or football or anything else, right? Or any pro sports. It's like you could do it. Like there's a blend of old school and new school, but there's a blend because there is just an advantage you have. And like it is. I've seen newer recruiters run absolute circles around somebody. Look, I was 3 months in the recruiting, running circles around most of the recruiters in the office. It doesn't take long to know that you're a good recruiter. It does take a
Sure.
long time to have build up the wins and everything else, but I'm working with some damn good recruiters that have been in this 2, 3, 4 years, and that's it. Some of them
Right.
running circles around people 15 years in. Right? So
Right.
sometimes you also got to realize, hey, did I get as good as I thought I did over 15 years, right? Or is it based on the network? Was it the right timing? So you're gonna have to have some of those tough conversations, right? And marketing just allows you to at least make sure you're not behind. There's no reason to be behind for marketing, especially if you have the wins and some of the industries or the skill sets. Like that just gets you ahead. That's where you have the advantage over someone dropping 10K and putting themselves out there. They can't put those wins, those placements, those stories out there. You
Right.
can, and that's where you make it a fair fight again. And it's just never been easier to create noise, right? But it's also harder to capture, actually stand out, because people are just they're scrolling, they're deleting, or
Right.
you're going into spam and all that other stuff. It's like it is going to, like, people that are authentic, that are competent, that get the work done. That it is trending towards that, but it's trending towards that for the people that can actually get in front of their market
Right.
consistently. So,
Right.
like, to your point, I think calling it a utility is like perfection, because it
Yeah.
really is. And I think even how I'm talking to people about it, it's like cold email, anyone can do. Anyone can set up a campaign, a LinkedIn automation campaign, or a cold email campaign, a robocalls or AI calls. Not everyone can come up with a real good post, right? Or a
Right.
website that actually highlights like what they've done. Because not everyone has that. Like, winning is the differentiator right now, right? There's a lot
Right.
of fakes, right? Fake coaches, fake website builders out there, right? With like AI stuff like that, fake agencies, AI agents, which is basically just a couple ChatGPT prompts and stuff like that, right? There's a lot of that, but there's only so many people that are legit. And so if you really think you're legit as a recruiter, get your marketing in play, right? And
Yeah.
like make it known you owe it to your market to be the solution and have them be aware of you.
Right. And even in, I mean, and I'm not even a big like, so obviously we provide a solution to the industry, and I think we do a really great job of it. And I'm very proud of what we've been able to do through the years. But in a world that we're in today, even from a marketing perspective, it's never been easier for people to create content. Right? You don't. It's like having a full gym in your basement. You got a treadmill, you got a Smith machine, you got a weight bench, you got an Olympic bar, everything. You got a squat station, it's deadlift station, anything you could ask for. It's sitting there in your basement, and you're sitting upstairs, 350 pounds overweight. It's all there. The resources are available to you. Why not go downstairs and use it? And the same thing happens with marketing tools. We have AI. We have all these different digital tech platforms. We have all these things that are available to us, but we just don't take advantage of them or use them in a consistent way that's going to make an impact on our business. And so this is where we find most recruiters fail. It's not because they don't have the intellect. It's not because they don't understand. It's probably because they don't understand who their client is and who their audience is and how go about creating even some of that content. It's purely the time and ability to be able to devote that consistency to that, to be able to make it actually have an impact on their business. And so if a recruiting firm can find a way to do it and use these tools and create that consistency, please do it without any assistance from me. I don't I just want to see people get the most out of what it is that they can do. But if you don't have the time and you can't be consistent in what you're able to do, that's when if you're in this position, like I mentioned, and you're in dire need of being able to cut down on some of those things and get in shape for your health and for your kids and for your family. What do? If you can't get motivated to do it yourself, you go hire a coach, right? You go hire somebody that can whip you into shape. You get a personal trainer, you get a plan, you get an app, you get something that can help take you on that journey. And the same thing, that's where we are in this world is we're your personal trainers, we're your coaches, we're those that can whip your company into shape to be able to do well in these areas, to be able to get the most out of what's available today in the market from a perspective of digital marketing.
To get the most out of it, I think is such an important piece of it, because and I've been messaging people, I've been posting about, bashing on Zoom Info and Clay and all that stuff, because it doesn't solve what you're solving, what I look to solve, which is what makes your buyers buy from you.
Sure.
And people are, I'm going to pull the job boards and target those and NPC stuff. Okay, great. You and the other 100 Clay agencies that have caught on to bringing on recruiters as clients, that are doing the same thing. How long is that magic going to last? Right? It's like using 1,000 connection requests on LinkedIn 5 years ago. We knew there was going to be an end to that era. That there was a shot
Right.
clock to it. I've had a client with an AI software that was worried about, well, ChatGPT, ChatGPT could probably do this for free, what we do in a year. I'm like, so don't sell that. What you're selling is the implementation, and you're getting departments up and running on AI. You're getting them AI ready, right?
Right.
Stop worrying about the feature and start selling the transformation, which is you're going to make sure HR departments aren't left behind in an AI
Right.
world. That's what people care about, right? Really getting
100%.
to the feeling and the pain point. It's not a feature, it's not a benefit, but what's that transformation? It's typically right to avoid pain and running away from the fear. It's typically the number one buy. That's what we tell recruiters, right? Find out what the consequences of not filling the role are. Like,
Right.
that'll tell you everything. There are
Right.
none. Okay, well, if I'm a contingent recruiter, even if I'm retained, I better not. I better like I got to put that one to the side. Okay, let's not worry about that, right? So
Right.
you got to really find out what's driving people, and I guess I would ask you, like, how do recruiters like make time to make time? Because even when they have some like you build out the website, right, or we help with LinkedIn, it's still like you got to make time for that, right? You got to do the planning, the prepping, all that. Sometimes I hear like, how much time is this going to take? It's like,
Yeah.
well, why are you focused on that, right? But like, I guess what's your thoughts when you get that, when you hear that, when that is kind of said?
Yeah, I mean, thankfully, so within a lot of things that we provide, it's pretty hands off for our clients. We've got an opportunity to handle the heavy lifting for them, right?
Yep.
They're really more kind of editors and giving us approvals of what we're putting together. Um, it's worked out well from kind of how we approach our processes and things we've refined through the years. But I get I get the lack of having time available. So, I mean, think about like a solo desk recruiter, right? And so like, this is kind of even going back to like the dad stuff, right? So you're making your prospecting calls, you're working and building those relationships with existing clients, you're managing those job orders. You are then recruiting the candidates. You're trying to follow up with candidates that maybe aren't even a fit, but you still want to keep warm and have contact with. You're then working them, you're prepping them through the interview process. You're going through those negotiations, you're relaying those phone calls, setting interviews, all the things you're doing back and forth. Then you're taking out the trash. You're cleaning up your desk. You're trying to find time for your family in the evenings. You're trying to do all these things. And you start putting this list of what it is that a solo recruiter has to do every single day. And just think that there's time, and I get this, for them to make time to create that content, or even to engage a firm to be in that process of a firm even helping them. It seems like there's no possible way in their mind that they'll be able to execute and create time for that.
Yeah, and you have more of the done for you, which is great. And I think it's just kind of what you talked about, like the impact of like you do it now to make sure you shore up that part of your business, and it builds
Right.
over time, right? I think for you as sport, if you're going to be in this for the long game, treat it as such, and treat your
Yeah.
website with intentionality, right? And to help it have it set you up for success, right? It's like it's almost kind of sounds like a first round draft pick in baseball, right? It typically takes them 3, 4, 5 years to get them to
Right.
the majors, if not more. But when they're there, like they're ready to go. But like that whole time, it's been building up, and then you're really being able to take advantage, right, of that time that you put in and those iterations, uh, which is cool. Let me ask, like the AI stuff, right? Like I see AI website builders and different tools and stuff like that. And I always mess around with stuff just to see what it produces, right? And all
Yeah.
that. So it's interesting. Like, what are your what are your thoughts on AI as it relates to websites and everything else? Like, how do you see the evolution of websites being impacted by it, or if at all? Like, I'm just kind of curious. What should people consider with all that? Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think the AI in the sense of purely building a website without having to be touched by human hands is quite there yet. I don't think AI in general, without being touched by human hands, is quite there
I
yet.
agree.
it's like we always say it's a really, really, really smart intern. So they have a lot of knowledge, but they don't have any wisdom. So how do you apply that knowledge, right? You have to prompt it, you have to direct it. And so by you intervening in that and guiding it, that's how it happens. You take the content, the things that research has done, and then you implement it. You take that, you apply that wisdom to it. And the same thing with the way we see with these builders right now. I think there's a lot of great tools. Like Photoshop has, whereas Photoshop used to be very difficult to use, now it has so many great little AI tools built in that you can then, you can take when it used to take us 2 hours to edit a photo of a team member
Yeah.
because they had it all cockeyed and twisted. And now we can, and they have somebody in the background looking in the picture and it was horrible. We can do that in like 20 minutes now because of AI and tools like Canva and all the things that are out there. So, I think it's definitely making things more accessible. And I think it's going to continue to evolve and change. We're just on the cusp of it, right? But right as it sits right now, I don't think it's something where you can just say press a button and go.
Yeah.
You still just turn out with very kind of mediocre results that need your intervention, which the time to intervene and be able to manage the AI and go through those processes just becomes just as cumbersome. And typically what we see is clients sitting there 3 months later and they're still on the first page of their website. They haven't completed any of it. And then they call us, Steve, what can we do? And then we get busy on it. So.
Actually make it happen. Yeah. And get it done.
Right.
And I think that's the key, is if you want a result that's done right and still save time. Now it might improve some of your processes, maybe Photoshop, which is great, right? But you still need that hand holding, that eye for a good website, what works. And I got to imagine, do you have like continued SEO support services and all that? Like, you do like a build up and then a continued support?
Yeah. Oh yeah. So yeah, we have all kinds. Yeah, ongoing service, so hosting, ongoing SEO. Again, ongoing. We help create content from from LinkedIn perspective. So a lot of those things that people are doing their company page and we create consistencies where they can.
Yeah.
Right. That's kind of where we fit into that whole gap of things. And so. But definitely building the website, supporting it from an SEO perspective, optimizing it, building it up, creating integrations with other softwares and systems. We've gotten a chance to work with all of the ATSs. So from Crelate, the PC Recruiter, the Bullhorn, the Loxo, Recruiter Flow, even hate to miss some Tracker RMS, anybody that's out there.
Yeah.
We've gotten a chance to be able to partner with Job Adder to build integration. Salesforce, we're doing tons of Salesforce integrations right now as recruiters are implementing them within their process differently than they ever have before. And so, and a lot of that's due to their AI processes and things that they have in place. And so there's just a lot of ways that we continually help and get very entrenched in what it is our clients are doing.
I love it. Anything else related to website, SEO, marketing that I've missed or I haven't asked about that you want to make sure we cover, that we share? Do you think recruiters should know?
No, I think that's the gist of it. It's just about getting it built, making sure that it looks great, represents who you are, then being consistent in how you're updating content, improving the SEO of it, integrating it with your systems, and just making sure it's a tool that you use. Yeah. Again, it's if it's not promoted, if it's not invested in after even it's built, no matter how much money and resources you spend on it, if you're not continually building and investing in it, it's going to eventually kind of decay. And if we're not moving forward, then we're moving backwards. You don't stand still. Yeah. In life, you never stand still. If you're climbing a mountain, you only stay on a plateau for so long until you run out of food and you run out of water. So you're either going back down the hill or you're working your way up. So you got to choose.
Yeah, and I think that's such a good point. And personally, what I've learned is I try to stop biting off more than I could chew. I'm not great at it. I still do it too often. But just the importance of just like steps every single day. Just like getting your steps in every day. Like I was telling people, just have your connection request running every day. Have a post out there every day, right? You can check SEO, work on a blog or all that. You can just always kind of just check on stuff like a little bit every single day. Sometimes that's enough because not every day has to be this huge day in business. And sometimes just chipping away and just chipping away and chipping away. And sometimes you can't get to things in that day. That's all right. But like make sure your processes, your systems, like they allow that. They allow you to build on your work. And,
I think that's great advice. Yeah. We see that so I don't know if you guys did this when you recruited. So at the end of every day at 4 o'clock, right, we would take that hour and we'd plan for the next day.
Yeah.
That was kind of the traditional kind of what we would do. So no matter what's going on, 4 o'clock, get on your ATS, start planning out those calls, who you're going to reach out to, what positions you're going to work on. Same mindset from a marketing perspective. Take a planning time, whether it's once a week, whether it's every day, whether it's a half hour, whatever it is, 15 minutes, and you set that time aside and protect it and say, in these 15 minutes or in these 30 minutes, I'm going to plan out my marketing for the next day. Or I'm going to plan out my marketing for the next week, create those posts, the ideas for the content. And if you have that time and it's protected and it's predictable and you're dedicated to that, just like you would if you're going to go to the gym or anything else, you protect that time to make sure you get there. And if you do that, it allows you to be much more consistent and be able to take those kind of baby steps and chip away at it, like you're saying, to be able to be effective in your marketing.
Yeah, it's one of the hardest things to do. I do it pretty well for business stuff and at least marketing. A little bit harder the last couple of years for the physical activity type stuff because it's easy for family and business to move up the priorities, and that's been a personal choice. But you have to always kind of try to find that harmony. But you have to make that decision. This is too important not to, and
Right.
it's what's the end goal. Oh, I hear people, I want to sell my business or I want to hand it off to my kids or something like that. Okay, well, get to it now, right? Like,
Yeah.
how do you think you're going to accomplish that, right? Because if it's just you, if your whole business is just you and your relationship, then it's
Right.
depending on you. That's not scalable and it's not transferable, right? But if you
Right.
have that brand through the website is drawing in leads and your LinkedIn is drawing in stuff, right? And you have a system for that, like you can always do transfer of trust and all that, and then you can able to really build a system and right build some sustainability around it. And it's all right. It's harder to tackle one project once a quarter or two big ones a year, right? And plan
Right.
out for that and just be intentional, right? You might not have to do all the things in 1 year, right? This year could be a
Right.
focus on your website or it could be a focus on LinkedIn, right? All that, like whatever that looks like. And that's okay. Like
Right.
act like you're going to be here for a while too.
Yeah. Act like this is, that's something you have to
Yeah.
quickly make a bunch of money and then leave town, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that
Yeah.
and that's the thing, though. I mean, so we've seen a lot of recruiters in the last 4 years, chase that dollar, build something up real quick, and then completely, when things got a little tough, completely
Out.
go by the wayside.
Out.
And that's what happens in these kind of, if you feel a little economic downturn, the industries kind of ebb and flow and the things that take place. It will weed out those bad recruiters. And what we found in times when there is those kind of downturns and things that happen, if you are an established firm and you have the ability to be able to invest in your marketing and in your branding at that time and your presence online, all of a sudden now everything that you're investing is almost like 3x, because as you're doing that, everyone else is recoiling and everybody else then is also even leaving the marketplace, and you come out on the other side in a much stronger position than you were in.
Absolutely. Well said. That's exactly it. It's like now is the time to capitalize. Like if you're listening to this and you're considering like it is the time. As people are complaining, oh, LinkedIn is dead, yada yada. LinkedIn is not dead. SEO is not dead, right? Recruiters that don't evolve, yeah, they will die. Recruiters that don't figure out business development and don't evolve while the going is good, they will. People that go from corporate to agency without any runway, without any sales background, that think, recruiters are ankle biters. I could figure this out. Good luck.
Yeah.
Right? Like really have respect for the business and how hard it is to be consistent to win in this. And if you have that, and if you are owning it, and if you're in it for the long game, invest in it, right? But if you're not, you're probably not a listener to this podcast, to be perfectly honest, right? But like, and maybe if you're debating, save another year of paycheck before you go off on your own, something like that. Just like really take it seriously, because when you do it, then it allows you to do things right and not panic. And doing things right looks like investing in your website correctly, investing in your LinkedIn correctly, and content, and doing things the right way and intentional. I get the feedback from the people that come on the scene that are doing clay implementations and stuff like that, and I'm hearing what they're charging, and I'm hearing the feedback, and it's not pretty, right? But Steve, he's been around 10 years doing this, brother, longer doing this, like the family for decades. Like I've been at this 10 plus years. Like there's longevity there. You got to really be able to differentiate the cash grab between who's in here for the long game, right? If you're that type of person, go find the people that are like that too, right? To partner up with. It could be a game changer.
Yeah, it's funny. Yeah, I've been to 16 years now, and we always see these ups and downs and things, and but everything you said is spot on. What I can't get out of my head now that you said, if you're not a recruiter, you're probably not listening to the show. What if there's like some weird guy who just has nothing to do with recruiting, but he just loves listening to your podcast, and he's just this guy sitting in his basement. Can't wait for Clark to put out that next podcast. Knows nothing about recruiting and has nothing to do with it. Just, man, I can't wait for Clark to put this out.
That would be wild. Please message me if that's you. I got to know what's up. Don't hide from me. I got to know the deal. If it's anything like that. Because I know my sister, I think she feels bad. She listened to like the first episode and a half, and I talked to her the other day. She's in England. She was like, yeah, I haven't listened to your podcast in a while. I'm like, you're like in you work for like the government, all that. Like you don't care about recruiting. Like I don't expect you to listen to it. Like it's all good. My family. Well, your family would listen to your own podcast because they're all in recruiting, but none of my family understands how I make money recruiting or coaching. They're like, LinkedIn? Like what? I'm like, I'm telling you, 4x the monthly users now than 6 years ago. So, people are active. People are checking out websites still. So it's good, man. It's just great to officially like record this conversation and kind of just shoot down and shoot the and just see like the cool overlap and kind of what you're doing. I'm definitely inspired with like how long you guys have been doing this and with that success is just kind of like that, just steady, like just always showing up and just always making it happen. I know you guys have evolved your offerings, like really customized to kind of quicker turnaround times and getting people up and running. So guys, if you're interested, like the website will be on the episode bio, Steve's LinkedIn, connect with him, hit him up, right? I'm sure you'll talk and figure out what the right timing, right? The option, the right timing, all that good stuff.
Sure.
Right? I guess anything else to add in terms of recruiters? I mean, it's anyone that's in it, right? That sees the value, make it happen. You got to get your website right. So, and we got the March Madness. The bracket might already be launched by the time we launch this episode. But if you don't follow Steve, because he does a March Madness bracket every year.
$500, man. So Crelate is give away $500 to the winner. So if it's already launched, you suck and you lose. But you could win if you don't. $500 to the winner. $250 second place. Fourth place walks away with even $50. So Quill.ai, Crelate, who else? Ben Minna sponsoring it as well. MPA Worldwide always provides the trophy for us. It's been something we're doing like for about 6 years now. Get a couple hundred recruiting firms on there. It's a lot of fun. So hope you join it, Clark. You're eligible. Come play.
I love it. I'm going to try to figure out how to sponsor this thing too. So do something.
You just consider it done. We'll figure it out.
Cool. Man, the trophy's already taken. All right, I got to come up with something good. But we'll make it happen. But dude, Steve, appreciate you being on here, man. Great to record with you and learn more about recruiters' websites and everything that you got going on. So keep up the great work, man.
Yeah, Clark, enjoyed it. Really appreciate your time.
All right. Well, connect with Steve. Check out recruiters' websites. Like, subscribe, 5 stars. I'm still trying to ramp up from my 1-star rating someone gave me when I first launched this. So I'm at 4.6. So I'm trying to get to at least 4.9. So give us some love on there. That's on Spotify. I think Apple are okay. But appreciate you guys. And until next time, happy hunting.